All right, we are back. We've got episode 16. We just finished up week 17. Going to be covering the Bears game, getting into all the details of Bears versus Falcons this week. So with that, I'll have one of you guys take it away here.
Tom?
Oh, it's always Jesse.
Hey, I'll take it. I mean, big win, we got eliminated from the playoffs, but we beat down on the Falcons, Overall, I think it was our most complete game, player-wise, coaching-wise. I mean, it just felt like we were connecting on all cylinders there.
Top three things you liked on both sides of the ball.
We controlled the clock.
Okay.
I think we controlled the game.
Okay.
We played mistake-free football. And I think we took some. We took some deep shots and we were hitting them. It was snowy. I mean, I was drinking some beers, watching the Bears, and I was like, this is what I want from the Bears team. And that I don't think I haven't felt that way this year, and it was nice.
It was due. We were overdue. That's for sure.
And against a good Falcons team. I don't want to take anything away from the Falcons team because they are a good football team. Their defense in particular, is pretty dang good, and I think we played well against them.
I was with Tom watching this game. We were at Buffalo Wild Wings with our good friend Jake Innes, Yakaverl. He's a big Falcons fan, so obviously for this matchup, we met up, and he wanted to get a little scouting report on his possible future franchise quarterback in Justin Fields. And, I think he liked what he saw, and so did we. And the carousel of good Justin, bad Justin continues. And we got to see good Justin, right? And with only one game left in the season, it's just – it drives you crazy as a Bears fan because – you don't know what you want. You got Carolina locked up the first overall pick for you. And this, Justin Fields, quarterback you drafted 3 years ago, is starting to string a couple games together that look good. And so in typical Bears fashion, all things seem to be clicking. They're firing on all cylinders now that they've been eliminated from the playoffs and there's only one game left in the year. Now, we do still have the chance to do something very important in terms of the NFC North, something the Detroit Lions were able to achieve last year in eliminating the Green Bay Packers from playoff contention. I know as a loyal Bears fan, we wouldn't like to see anything else considering the Bears can't make the playoffs. So, you hope to see another great performance out of Justin and out of the defense, and another well-coached game out of Eberflus, who it sounds like is going to be around next year. Sorry for some of the earlier content we put out, Matt. There were some just not good decisions earlier in the year, but you know what? Things are looking better now, so that's good.
I think I'm coming around on him. I think I am.
Yeah, Dino Dex, So
I agree with Tom. And it's very like a Homer mentality to be like, oh well, yeah, no, I'm on board with Eberflus now. When all year I've just been like, this guy couldn't tie his shoes if you made him do it on camera. And then Jesse just alluded to the nickname thing. Like you see the video, him getting the team prep for the game, going out. He's got the nicknames for every individual player, and we're riding high right now. I mean, we have no chance of making the playoffs, and I'm so excited for this game next week. And I think most of the fan base is that we relish in the opportunity to just make this a miserable offseason for the Packers and start it off on the right note. And that's with not making the playoffs. So I feel really good right now. Whether or not that is smart is, I'd probably lean towards it being wildly over optimistic, but I don't care. I'm really happy about this team, the way we played. We were all talking about it before we started recording. It's just like every guy now, you're getting to the point where it's like, I love this guy. I love that guy. I want this guy to stay. Like, you don't want to see anyone go in the off season, but that will inevitably happen, and that's okay. This team needs to continue to develop and grow if we want to get to a spot where we're contending for division titles and being a kind of perennial off threat. So very happy. I really love. I mean, if I pick one thing, I know Wargo, you'd ask for a couple points. Like, I would probably pick the secondary. I've loved watching them play the last few weeks. So young, still really raw, but these guys play really hard. Stevenson, Gordon are two of my favorites. I like to hit. They can play in the run game. Johnson, he's not as inclined to make some of the tackles that the other two are, but that's okay. Like, he's our shutdown corner. So, he doesn't want to get involved in the run game. I'm okay with that. You worry about shutting down the best receiver on the other team. So I'd be interested to see what kind of contract we're potentially going to offer up to him in the offseason, or if we let him walk. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So feeling great. Wargo, how you feeling, bud?
Yeah. So you were talking a little bit about going into the Green Bay game here, and I did just pull up the line for fun. Does anybody want to take a stab at what they think the pregame line is right now for playing Green Bay at Green Bay?
+1 Bears.
-3 Packers.
Okay.
-3.
I'm gonna go Packers favored -2.5.
-3 on the nose. Tom Jim with the
Oh,
love to see it.
Nice, Tom.
Luke still wins with prices right.
You're starting
rules,
to figure this spread thing out, Tom. You've come a long way since our first episode.
You see the numbers, just like, oh, that's just me. Okay.
No, but I do feel good about
man.
this game. I mean, it is kind of like this part of the roller coaster ride, where we are just elated and, super high on everything because, we beat the Atlanta Falcons, which, like, I agree, they are a good team. Their defense is a highlight of theirs, but, like, I mean, should we be this excited? Probably not. But yeah, I like it. It's just now I know, like I was saying with the equal and opposite reaction, I forget what game we were talking about. I think it's the 49ers. But now it's time for us to come crashing back down to earth. I have a feeling. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, like with the guys that are coming up on their contract years. It can be contagious in the locker room if guys start getting paid. I mean, you saw everybody rally around Santos, which that's just our kicker who got a pretty good contract, right? But to see everybody celebrate that, I think that's kind of with intentions of like, Cairo, they kind of showed loyalty to him. Maybe when our contract becomes negotiable, then they'll have that same good faith in me. So I don't know. I think there's potential for a lot of the guys that we like to stick around. I don't think it's a guarantee. I think, inevitably front office is going to have to make some tough decisions in the offseason. And yeah, I don't know. I'm giddy about the news, so I just like sometimes I'm pulling up my phone and I'm like, is there going to be an ESPN notification? Is there going to be some new material about whoever from, the Bears? So it's kind of a fun time of year, honestly. I think it was the PMT podcast I was listening to it while I was shoveling the driveway, and they were making the case for like rooting for bad teams is more fun because there's just so many theoreticals that you can pose where it's like, oh, well, we could trade our first round and we could, do all this stuff with it. And it's like, oh, if you're just a perennial good team, it's like, who really cares about that stuff? Like you're going to do whatever, and you're going to be over 500, probably going to make the playoffs. So yeah, I agree with that take. I don't think that's very fun. So I like rooting for the Bears, and I think it's a great time to root for the Bears.
I feel like you're a little bit pessimistic about the Bears, and I think that they've lost some heartbreakers. And if we would have won those games, like Fields got hurt. Once he came back, they've been playing pretty darn good. Like I said, mistake-free, like not a lot of turnovers and the Browns game was tough. That was a tough one. I don't know. I think we're a little better the second half of the year this year. That they're a different team than when we started. A couple points though. Jesse did say something about Santos last week, and he missed a 50 whatever field goal it was. It was way short. And I looked at him when we were
55 yarders.
Yeah, I was like, well, you made your point.
Hey,
yeah, I mean,
was missing out there. He's a great kicker.
Yeah, those were tough conditions, and the Cairo's Cairo. Like we said it last week, it's not an insult. It's not his strength. He's not a power kicker. You know, he's a reliable kicker. You just get him to 45 yards.
Yeah,
and it's been a pretty much a sure thing for the last couple of years. So I don't hold that against Cairo. I think you bring up a good point, Borgo, with maybe looking at the guys that are like some of the bigger name guys on the team. And of course, Jalen Johnson comes to mind, and how like the way this team is trended towards the end of the year, how that might be into some contract talks in the offseason. If you got guys that are like dying to get out of town, like you can put the best offer on the table money wise, but if that guy hates his life in Chicago and he hates the team that he's on, doesn't like the head coach or teammates, like that plays into it. So like, the fact that this team is playing better and that there does seem to be, especially in the locker room, like a sort of team culture developing where it's like these guys like to play with one another. Like we've heard all these like reports each week, players like coming out and speaking in defense of Justin Fields and like, speaking in defense of one another, like, hey, this is a legitimate team. It's not just like
a bunch
of right. Exactly. So, I mean, if someone was like, hey, it turns out that report about Eberflus, they're going to stick with him next year. I know you're kind of touching on that before, if someone were to be like, yeah, that was bullshit. That he actually getting fired after the Green Bay game, and be like, okay, well, that's too bad. Who are we gonna get? Like, but now
we're still gonna call Jalen Johnson Dragon Slayer for the rest of the time.
Exactly.
That's already made up.
Yeah. So I mean, that's I do look forward to seeing how that kind of comes into effect in the offseason and like hopefully with a little bit of a stronger team culture, like maybe that can work to our advantage in keeping some of these guys or getting them to stick around. I'm not saying go the Chicago sports route where it's like we criminally underpay or under offer our superstars and they walk. I'm a White Sox fan, obviously, so it's like I'm very familiar with what that's like, and like you can't operate these major franchises like that, especially when you're in a major market. Like the money's there, pay these guys.
Yeah,
like
with
you
the Bears,
want to win championships, pay them.
Yeah, they do have the cap, right? The Bears have
plenty of cap,
quite a bit of money.
Cairo Santos on $9.5 million a year. That's gonna be eaten into that.
And we got good draft picks. I think.
There's much further reaching implications of what we're talking about here and the dynamics of the locker room and the evolution of the culture within the locker room and the feelings amongst the teammates, I think. And what that's going to do is end up making the front office, Ryan Poles, walk a very tight rope balancing act this offseason with the Justin Fields situation, because as we know, they're coming to the defense of Fields these last few weeks as he's been under pressure, as the Bears have been eliminated from the playoffs, and as the media continues to question whether or not he's going to be the guy in Chicago next year. And as we've seen, everybody on the team has come to his defense, as they should and as they would during the season, but I think they're going to continue to do this during the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
And, then it leads into, all right, we have this first overall pick. We have generational talent that the media is telling us from USC and Caleb Williams. And, but we have a guy that has shown he can play really well in Justin Fields, and a guy that the locker room is starting to get behind. So he's going to have a really tough decision. But I think, if we judge him off of his historical decision making last year, obviously looking back at that move he made with Carolina, it was incredible for the Bears. And
looks real good.
Good. I think if we put some faith in Ryan Poles to make the right decision, no matter what it's going to be.
Chase Claypool.
Yeah, that was a bad one, but
that being the only bad one though.
Hey, I was excited about that when it dropped.
I was too. I was such a.
I didn't even think about him being a nuisance.
But honestly, if I had to make a way too early prediction call, I would say that the Bears are going to end up trading that first overall pick to one of the other top five teams in the draft that are going to need a quarterback, and they're going to move back maybe a few spots. But one of these teams is really going to fall in love with Caleb Williams, and they're not in as good of a situation as we are with Justin Fields, and we're going to be able to not only get their first round pick this year, but probably their first round pick next year, as well as maybe another veteran guy with a manageable contract, and continue to build up this team around Fields. So that's what I'm hoping for. And I know I've gone back and forth on this Fields situation the last 5 or 6 weeks. But it feels like
I'm right there with you.
Starting to click.
I'm right there with you. It's been hard to stay consistent with an opinion on Fields, even more so than Eberflus. It's like the guy. It's on a play-by-play basis. It really is. He does stuff where it's just like, God, this dude can't figure it out. Oh wait, that was insane. What did I just see there? You're like, oh, he just got sacked. No, he didn't. That was a 30-yard game.
I think I've seen less of that, less of what are you doing the last few games. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. Here's the thing: is that I have this opinion on Eberflus staying now, and it's like, okay, I'm okay with it. We've done enough to end this year to where I think it, if you want to keep guy around, okay, that's fine. And we're all talking about and Fields is playing better, and it's like he is, but he's not. If you really dig into the stats for Fields, they're not better. They are what they are. And it's a very slow, gradual incline at the moment, which is great. But we're approaching a point where it needs to be major steps. I had pulled up this year's QBR rankings, which, if you're unfamiliar with QBR, it's just a stat to determine overall effectiveness for quarterbacks, right? And if you look at the guys in and around Fields in that same ballpark, you're talking about Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, Russell Wilson, Joshua Dobbs. That's not the kind of company you want to keep when it comes to your franchise quarterback. It's just not. Some of those guys are young and they may improve, and I hope that that's the case with Fields, of course. But I know my knee-jerk reaction is going to be if something were to happen, because there's a lot of talk. Well, not a lot of talk, but there has been talk in the past about Fields not technically being a Poles guy. He's a pace guy. He was there. He predates Ryan Poles. So there's a lot of people who are like, hey, you shouldn't just assume that Poles wants to stick with Fields, even if the team is improving. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he could say, I really do like Caleb Williams, or I do like Drake May, and take one of those guys at the top of the draft and see what he can get for Fields. He clearly has shown that he's not afraid to make some drastic moves. He's done it already a couple times since being with the Bears. So I don't know. I like Justin Fields. I think he's a tough, competitive player. And I think if he were around next year, I'm not dreading it. I'm hopeful and optimistic that he continues to improve. But with our short history with polls, I don't think it's out of the question that something could happen where we do take one of these guys at the top of the draft, or he goes like completely left field and we bring in fucking Phillip Rivers or some, just something that nobody's expecting right now. So keep an eye out for that.
Phillip Rivers.
Maybe not Phil.
You make some good points.
Yeah.
For sure. I would like to see. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to see like he's been playing better. Like the stats from like the last 5 games leading into the next season. What can we get for Justin Fields? Can we get a first round pick? So some teams out there are not at the top of the quarterback. They can't get a good quarterback, so they're looking for a quarterback just because they have a good team.
Let's do an exercise right now. I've got that QBR list pulled up on the other screen here. I'm going to go through like the top 10 guys on that list. You guys tell me if you'd give up first round for these guys. These guys are miles ahead of Justin Fields.
Well, I know.
So,
hey, but like you think the dynamic of Justin Fields as a playmaker, like he's shown that he can make plays the last, like this ending of the year, a showcase, if you will, for these other teams. And I don't know. I mean, maybe not a first round pick, but I think
all I'm saying is that I don't personally think it'd be a first rounder. Could we get something for him? Definitely.
Yeah.
What do you think his contract looks like?
That's another thing. We still have one more year on this contract that we don't have to pay Justin Fields yet.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. To answer your question, I don't know. I haven't thought about it that much, honestly. I don't know what his contract would be like. I mean, just with the few years, like it doesn't take a lot to get paid a lot of money. You look at a guy like Daniel Jones in New York. I think for like a split second,
crazy.
That was like the highest paying contract of all time.
That dude
Daniel
looks scared
Jones.
all the
Like,
time.
I mean, granted, somebody got paid shortly thereafter him, and then that becomes a contract. But
they were like, "Nah, you see what's going on in New York with Danny Dimes? I need my money."
So like like that bodes well for these guys that are paying up on that first, non-rookie contract. It's just like you're gonna get paid at that position. And it's be an amount that most fan bases are probably going to be like, ugh, like that's a tough pill to swallow. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, personally, I just think, and I'm not polls. I don't know what the heck I would do in that situation, but I kind of agree with Luke. Like, I could see him being like, I don't care what you guys are thinking. Like, I'm going to do what's best for this organization kind of thing. But personally, I think, we keep Justin. We, trade down.
Would you do a fourth rounder? Would you do a fourth rounder for Justin?
Yeah. No.
You would.
No. I think he's more than that.
I think a lot. I've seen a couple articles, and they're saying second round.
Yeah. But like, if a team's
like
really
if the Falcons if the Falcons wanted to trade for Fields,
I would do like a third round and a guy that's credible, like a receiver or something. But I think we go into this draft. We need another edge rusher, and maybe a nice lineman, and a receiver. I think those three. Our secondary is good right now. If we pay what we got and just kind of fortify a couple positions, I don't know. There's a guy from Oregon I like on the line. I forgot his name. If we can get him, Obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know. I just think Justin Fields is good enough and progressing enough in my eyes that we can move with him with a good team. I don't know.
What's Nate Davis's contract? That guy kind of sucks. Just have him for 1 year.
I think he was more than 1 year. Could be wrong about that, but
3 years, $30 million, inked on March 15th, 2023.
Yeah, I think these positional needs, I think Tom hit on them. Interior line, specifically center.
What is that guy? Is that the center from Oregon? That's
Free
what
safety.
I'm thinking of. What is his name?
I'm not sure who you're thinking of from Oregon, but Eddie
Braxton
Jackson's probably going to
Jones.
be gone.
Yeah,
Braxton Jones.
he's a big.
Braxton Jones was the third highest ranked PFF player, or had the third highest PFF grade for the game last week against the Falcons for the Bears offense. His contract is 4 years, $3.95 million.
Yeah, he was like a
To give
fifth round pick, I think.
To give you an idea of how that stacks up with our friend Nate Davis.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's tough, but I mean, ultimately, a $30 million contract over 3 years. It's not like you just ruined our ability to sign guys in the future. It's not. And
I think there's still room to beef up the offensive line. I do though how they've played this year and played in different spots and shown that when someone does go down, it's not a death sentence. We can move some guys around and be flexible and still be effective. So I think if we get one more guy for the offensive line, that a good quality player with with a high pick, first or second round, that's probably a good idea.
But is it time in the rebuild to start going after those big ticket items?
This isn't a rebuild any longer. I wouldn't consider it a rebuild. I would say they have a pretty core roster in place, and now they're getting, like supplemental guys that are going to enhance play on either side of the ball. And they're almost getting to a point on the defensive side of the ball where they're exactly where they want to be. I think they get one more edge rusher, elite edge rusher to go along with Montez Sweat. We've seen the linebackers in the secondary are playing really well. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Eddie Jackson this offseason. So there may be something going on at safety.
Yeah, he's probably going to be gone.
Yeah.
But there are guys like this that are going to be available as free agents in this season. You got Antoine Winfield Jr. from Tampa Bay, Kyle Duggar from New England. He's more of a strong safety type. Grant Delpit from Cleveland. Like, these could be guys that you look at kind of like DeMarcus Walker types next year, kind of come in on a 1 year deal, but are good players. And I think I agree with both of you. Borgo, I know you're saying rebuild. Jesse's like kind of pushing back on that a little bit. I think we're approaching the end of a rebuild. We're approaching the next stage. I don't know. I guess it depends on what this offseason looks like. But I do agree with Jesse in the sense that there are some pieces there now that you feel good about.
Jesse was just picking at technicalities. The question that I asked was, is it time to start taking big swings on guys in the upcoming draft? Like, how far down do we want to trade some of these picks, or do we actually just want to make the picks ourselves and get a
lot of people are still saying we're going to draft Caleb Williams. I just want to put.
I don't think it's the craziest take.
That is the projected for Bears. Like, a lot of people are like, we're going to take him. Which
I think it would be absolutely insane if we could trade that first overall pick to New England or to, I don't know who
Washington,
and move back one or two or three spots and get Marvin Harrison Jr. to go alongside DJ Moore, and then Fields.
That just makes me nervous because because if you slip up and you go one spot too far and you think you know what another team's going to do, and then they go off the rails and, they take him first, it's not going to be the end of the world for you guys. Like if it's like, oh, well, there goes Harrison Jr. I mean, and I don't mean that as like like you're screwed if that happens. There's a lot of good receivers in this draft, like Leaf Neighbors from LSU. They say he's great.
Washington.
There's
receiver.
There's
Rome.
Roma Dune from Washington. Washington's got 3 NFL wide receivers on their team.
I think Penix also helped his stock quite a bit. Like I made the case earlier to draft like one of the lower tier quarterbacks, not one of the top 2. And I really don't think that makes sense if we do decide to stay with Fields. Just in retrospect and thinking through that comment that I made, I was like, no. But that does help the teams that do need quarterbacks. It takes a little heat off of some of the guys that we may be more interested in once we have made our decision at QB. So with Penix playing an awesome game, like I think he greatly improved his draft stock, and it's just somebody that I never see the Bears drafting. But I mean, he'd be a great quarterback for the Bears. I just don't think it's even remotely in the cards. But him moving up will help some of the guys that we will be targeting. And I do think there's a lot of talent in the draft class. I mean, everybody wants to look at Drake May and Caleb Williams, but like we're talking about with offensive linemen, Brock Bowers' name really isn't even mentioned that much. And, coupling Cole Kmet and Brock Bowers.
Quite a few good linemen this draft.
Got to have a center. I think we, go ahead and spend a little bit more on get somebody to get Fields the ball consistently in a good way. But I think that could be a veteran player. But anyway, it'll be interesting definitely to see what the Bears do in the offseason, I guess is my big take there. But I mean, watching that Penix game against Texas was incredible. He looked so good. And like, of course, being a Bears fan, I couldn't help but think like, imagine if Fields could always be dropping the ball in the bucket like that. And I mean, I do think he played really well and had some very accurate long passes, which is good to see. But like, have a consistently accurate passer in the pocket, like that's what quarterbacks get remembered for,
College and NFL,
True. Oh yeah, for sure. And he had plenty of time in the pocket. They made comments about it multiple times. But he was also getting it out quick at other times too.
He threw a dart into the end zone last night. And I was like, dang. So yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
He was impressive. But I mean, I guess my whole point really was just him improving his draft stock will help us to get guys that, we're more interested in. But it was awesome to watch him ball last night.
Yeah, I didn't think about trading our pick and then not getting Harrison. That's
I'll list. So this is an article from SB Nation by Chris Flum. Top 50 big board right now for the 2024 draft. Caleb Williams, number 1. Drake May. Marvin Harrison Jr., number 3. Jaden Daniels. Olu Fashanu, offensive tackle from Penn State. Joe Walt, tackle from Notre Dame. Malik Neighbors. Brock Bowers. Jerzon Newton is an interesting name because he's a local guy in Illinois, out of Illinois. I'm not sure if he's from Illinois, probably not. But interior defensive lineman, top 10 draft pick. Those are guys that are always really sought after. And then Rome Odunze out of Washington. So there are three wide receivers projected to go in the top 10 right now.
Okay.
2 offensive tackles, 3 quarterbacks, 1 defensive lineman, 1 tight end.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point, Wargo, with and you see this a lot each year, and the closer you get to the draft, it's like these generational talents, all of a sudden there's 10 of them. And it's like, teams kind of fall in love with these quarterbacks, or, Jesse's saying there's 3 projected in the first round right now. By the time the draft comes around, that could be 5. That could be 6.
Yeah, LSU's quarterback came out of nowhere.
And as a team with 2 first-round picks at the moment, if you're looking to trade back, that is a good sign for you, because this is assuming that we're stick with Fields, right? that means some of those guys that maybe if it weren't a stronger quarterback class would have already gone. But because teams have fallen in love with these guys, because Penix has a great playoff, all of a sudden there's teams, like, do we draft this guy first round? So that could definitely have a real effect the closer we get to the draft. I'm interested to see what happens. At this point, like, honestly, I'm so delusional that anything that comes out about the Bears, I'm just like, I'm jacked about it. Oh, we're getting rid of Fields. Perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
Oh, we're
Something new.
Even better. Like I can't make up my mind, and I don't care because it's just, they're fun to watch right now. And I'm excited for this final game and for the off season and the playoffs.
The beautiful thing about all this
even
is
though we're not going to be in them.
This all comes back to Lovie Smith last year. Had taken over as the interim coach for the Texans, winning that final game and securing the first overall pick in last year's draft for the Bears, which we ended up trading to the Panthers to get this year's first overall draft pick. And
bring him back.
It sets us up for a much more exciting offseason. So as Bears fans, we should really relish and appreciate this moment in time, because it's not always going to be like this. We may, in our lifetimes, we may never have 2 first overall picks in back-to-back seasons. So
true.
Enjoy it. Enjoy the stories. Enjoy the headlines. Enjoy the speculation. I know we do. And we'll continue to talk about this as it develops, of course, and hopefully the Bears get a big win over the Packers this weekend.
Yeah, and if they don't, they'll have a higher draft pick. So
yeah, and as we're wrapping, I think we're wrapping up here. But like and subscribe. Maybe put some thoughts in there in the comments of what you guys think we should do, or what the Bears should do in this first round.
I want to hear in the comments.
I want to know. I want to know what everybody else thinks.
The question I asked earlier for Justin Fields, let's do average annual contract value. The average annual dollar amount that Justin Fields' contract will be worth when he signs it, whether it be next year or the following. What would you be willing to pay him as an organization for a year?
Let's give a example. What a quarterback.
I've got it. Yeah, here. I had an idea as to what to do here just to give a benchmark, but I'll just go down the list somewhere where I think he might be appropriate and list off 5 quarterbacks and their salaries. So we've got Dak Prescott at $40 million, Daniel Jones at $40 million, Aaron Rodgers at $37.5 million, Derek Carr at $37.5 million, and Kirk Cousins at $35 million.
I think if his contract was expiring,
the Jets have got to feel so stupid right now.
Yeah.
And that was a little lower than that. Jared Goff,
honestly,
Ryan Tannehill, 29.5.
I mean, that's the thing. This is all good news for Justin Fields getting paid, because it's just like taxes. They just go up.
Yep.
The value of these contracts. The value of these contracts just go up. Like, you're not. I don't ever see them going down. And if you're paying Ryan Tannehill $29 a year, Justin Fields is probably going to get paid somewhere close to 32, and that's just that'd be nice.
What's he
but
deserve
I
to get
just
paid?
don't see it.
Put it in the comments.
Yeah,
let us know.
Let's hear it.
But we'll wrap it up here. We'll be back for picks against the spread, our final picks against the spread. It'll be a memorable one. Hopefully by that time we'll have our 100 subs and we can get those hats out. We can do some advertising for next year's season. But let's not talk about that. So we'll get into it. We'll be back here soon for you guys. Let's do picks against the spread on Thursday again.
Aye.